And there's Quentin Schultze. Is it Schultze or Schulte?
Yeah, Schultze. I don't pronounce the E. Boy, it's great to hear Gene. I tell you, it's great to be on with you, Walter. You're a radio legend in your own right, man.
My own mind, buddy. Quentin, this is quite a book you've written. You wrote it. You actually sat down and wrote a book about the life lessons from the great movie A Christmas Story, and in it you managed to integrate the wit, wisdom, and genius of Gene Shepherd. And Gene Shepherd's genius was so unique that it was suited specifically for radio. His true genius was on the radio, which troubled him. Didn't it, Quentin? It troubled him that his genius was centered on radio and not the big screen.
Oh, yeah, he felt inferior about that. But on the other hand, he learned how to tell stories through radio. And then the stage performances he was doing at the Limelight and other places in New York City. And I started listening to him and reading some of his material back in the late 60s and early 70s. And then when I became a communication professor, get that, with a PhD piled higher and deeper, I wanted to find somebody that was really a fantastic storyteller who could teach me how to tell stories. And also one who could tell the same story across multiple media, do it on radio, television, feature film, could write it. He wrote for Playboy magazine. He wrote short stories. He wrote novels that he called. He did stage performances. The guy was unbelievable, probably one of the three best storytellers in the 20th century in America. And so I reached out to him. We had a common hobby, ham radio, and I think that intrigued him. Also that a professor was contacting him. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, let's get together and you help me learn how you do what you do, because I want to be able to teach my students how to do it." And I couldn't believe it. He said, "Yes." So we started getting together and teaching together how to tell a story. And I learned that all of his stories were parables. And so that movie, A Christmas Story, which is now probably the most popular movie in America, seen by 50 million adults in the U.S. every year just on cable TV. And last year, Warner Brothers sold 9 million DVDs of it. Hardly anybody that I meet hasn't heard of it or can't recall some of the episodes in it. The Red Ryder, BB gun, the How Do the Piggies Eat, getting the tongue stuck to the flagpole, all this stuff, especially the leg lamp. Everybody knows about it. But very few people know that what Gene Shepherd did, here's the secret, gang, he told parables. Every story, including the one you just played, he would have an underlying theme as to what it says about human nature, about humankind. He was a walking, talking, and he talked a lot, philosopher of life who put his philosophy of life into stories about everyday life, parables. And so what I decided finally to do, I thought the movie would die at some point, but it keeps getting more and more popular. So I took all of the notes from the class and things that he taught and we taught together. I put it together in a book called You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, Life Lessons from the Movie A Christmas Story, because that's actually the most searched term on the internet for the movie A Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out. And I took 20 of the 24 life lessons that Shepherd used repeatedly in his stories, and just with short chapters talked about how each of those plays out with his genius in the movie. And it's absolutely a gas. I wish I had written the book before. I'm so delighted with it.
No, don't ever think that. Quentin, we always do what we're supposed to do at exactly the right time. And coming up in just seconds, I want you to share one of the life lessons from A Christmas Story. It's an honor to have you on this show. And you, Quentin, and I will talk more in just seconds. This is Sterling on Sunday. All right, good evening. We're live coast to coast. Good evening, I'm Walter M. Sterling with Quentin Schultze, who wrote a mandatory book for anybody in media and anybody who actually wants to know how to tell a story. Quentin sat at Gene Shepherd's knee, the greatest storyteller of my lifetime, a man who from 1957 to 1977, for 1 hour a night, on the #1 radio station in North America, told a subversive, anti-establishment story without a phone call and without a guest. And without a script. So, Quentin, how did he tell his stories? What was the? Tell me one thing that you learned about his storytelling that blew you away.
Yeah, first let me say that when I talked to Jerry Seinfeld in Malibu, Jerry said that Gene Shepard was by far and away the biggest influence on his comedy, just to give you a sense of this. So Gene Shepard thought always, I want an idea which is a truth about life. It's usually not going to be a popular truth. That makes it subversive. And I am going to tell stories about everyday life that get at that truth, and that truth is universal. And that's the way that he did it. He was always thinking in terms of these universal truths, or parables we could call them. For example, in the book I have 20 of them. We used 24 when we taught together. Let me just throw one out and absolutely boggle your mind. In fact, that's a phrase from the movie A Christmas Story, boggle your mind. The leg lamp, the famous leg lamp, probably the most famous icon from the movie. You see these leg lamps all over. People buy hundreds of thousands of them annually every year, and people just love them. And so I asked Gene one day, I said, Gene, tell me what the heck is with the leg lamp? He said, Quinn, the leg lamp is the old man's trophy wife. I said, trophy wife? You mean a trophy wife, like an older guy dumps his wife and then he gets remarried to some young hot chick and he parades her all over to show what he's got and other guys don't have? He said, exactly. He said, men are incurably romantic and they're always pursuing women, but they can't just pursue women, so they then redirect their obsessions toward things, toward cars that they have to have, technology they have to have, fishing gear they have to have, whatever it is. He said that's the way men are. He had the opposite of the stereotypes of men versus women. He believed women were inherently practical and problem-solving, and they would bail men out of trouble. Well, when next time you watch this season, the movie A Christmas Story, watch what happens. The old man gets this leg lamp out of the crate that says fragile on it. He's a fragile. I won't go into why he says that, but there's meaning to that too. And he pulls this thing out, and he instantly is in love with this thing. Oh, he's so in love. And his wife is looking at this. Mom, what are we going to do with this? And he says, I know just the thing to do it. We're going to put it in the front window. And, oh, she wants to talk to him, but he doesn't want to talk to her because he is in love with this trophy wife. In fact, the so-called narrator of the film, which is the voice of Gene Shepard, who wrote the script, says at that point that the old man was going to put it in the window to turn on the neighborhood. And so this battle ensues back and forth between the old man and Mom over the leg lamp. And finally, Mom realizes she has to put an end to the affair. The old guy is just obsessed with this trophy wife. So she breaks the lamp, and then he buries it in the backyard. And Shepard says he thought maybe he recalled hearing taps being played. And that's the end of that particular episode. This infatuation, the obsession. So one of the 20 life lessons in my book about A Christmas Story, right from Shepard's mouth, is curtail your obsessions. And if you're a man, you know what those obsessions are. Be careful.
All right, this is Quentin Schultze, who wrote a book about A Christmas Story, the life lessons from the movie A Christmas Story. What's the name of the book, Quentin?
Yes, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. Life lessons from the movie A Christmas Story.
Now, what's great about this book is he told the key truth, which is that the chapters are short, which means that when you're on an airplane, you're sitting on a beach on vacation, you're taking it easy, you need a quick read, this is the book. It's made for the quick read. You'll enjoy every second of it. Now, I must ask you one fanboy question, Quentin. One question. I know that he went into that studio with a 3-inch by 1-inch piece of paper. And on one side was one note, and on one side was a different note. What did he write on that piece of paper?
Well, what he did was to collect stuff all week long. Newspaper clippings, magazine clippings. He would make notes. He was a phenomenal note taker of things that he would hear on the radio or see on TV. So it took incredible numbers of notes, and then he would go through them, and he would say, okay, now what's the main point here? And what is this story that main point happened in? And then he would put this in his memory. He had a phenomenal memory. In fact, if you sat down with him, you couldn't shut him up. He would tell one story after another.
Notorious for not being able to shut him up. Now, I will tell you something you didn't know, and I'm going to thank you right now for being on Sterling on Sunday. Here's something you didn't know, Quentin. I asked 3 general managers of WOR. I said 3 of them. I said his ratings weren't better than the station. He had 1 advertiser. He was subversive and insubordinate. Why did you keep him? Not better ratings, no real money. Why did you keep him? 3 general managers of WOR said the same thing that you would never hear a general manager say today. They all looked at me and went, oh, Walter, we knew it was great radio. And
everybody knew.
Everybody knew, but it wouldn't be enough today. Quentin Schultze, thank you very much for being on Sterling on Sunday. I will post all sorts of stuff on our Facebook page about your book, which is You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, the story, the life lessons from a movie, A Christmas Story.